Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto Was the Devil Ninja. This story is made by the Engulfing Silence, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The light from the sun streamed in through the small window covered by a set of blinds that only did a half-assed job of actually keeping said rays of blinding luminescence from getting through. One blonde-haired, blue-eyed young man groaned in discontent as his eyes flickered open very briefly. They closed almost immediately after as they were hit by a beam of light so bright the young man thought he might go blind. Damn that sun. Couldn't it have picked a better time to rise? Or better yet, not risen at all? One of these days he was going to find some way to turn it off. Or blow it up. He would prefer blowing it up. Grunting slightly, the blonde male slowly sat up in bed, stifling a yawn with one hand as he did. Oh, how he hated mornings. They always seemed to come at the worst times. They actually didn't. He just wasn't much of a morning person. As the blonde began to gain more cognitive thoughts, he stretched himself out, turning this way and that as he raised his hands high into the air and listened to his back pop and crack in a way that would make most people cringe. Slowly but surely, Uzumaki Naruto got out of bed and made his way into the bathroom with a stumbling gait. It was just another day of his new life. After making his way towards the shower and turning on the water, Naruto ran a hand through his spiky locks of blonde hair before turning to look at himself in the mirror. At 17 years of age, Naruto could say he was honestly pleased with what he saw. Back when he was younger, he had always been very short. Even after coming back from his 3-year training trip, he had only grown tall enough to match the height of a few of his friends. In the past few months he had finally managed to grow to a nice, above average height for someone his age. Sure, he was no Jiraiya, but he was taller than his old man had been. That had to count for something. Absently, Naruto raised both his hands and pressed them together to make a strange seal with his fingers. It looked like a cross. He focused for a moment, looking both inward and outward, his eyes staring intently at his stomach while his mind, body and soul searched for something he had been dearly hoping to feel again since coming here. After a second or two, he sighed. Still nothing. There was not even a hint of what he had been looking for. Man, talk about depressing. He shook his head and slapped himself on the cheeks to get out of his minor funk. It would be best to not dwell on it. There was always tomorrow, right? Right. The shower began to steam and Naruto stepped in, groaning as the heat caused his aching muscles in his back and shoulders to loosen. He pressed his palms against the wall of the shower and let the hot liquid run down his frame and mat his hair to his head. It felt so good, especially after a hard night of trying to get his ruined body back into shape. That old saying that you never knew what you had lost until it was gone had never rung more true to him than it did now. After his shower, the blonde was finally awake and capable of getting ready for the day. This consisted of him getting dressed in the uniform of his school. A black blazer over a white, long-sleeved shirt with black highlights and a black ribbon on the collar and matching black pants. The rest of his outfit was actually much different from the standard academy uniform, an orange short-sleeve shirt underneath his dress shirt and orange and black sneakers. They were still considered acceptable within the school standards, though the principal had frowned upon seeing his choice in color. Not that he cared. If that man didn't understand the greatness of orange, that was his problem. Once he was dressed and his stomach was full, the blonde locked the door to his apartment and was ready to start his day with a grin. Today was going to be a good day. He could feel it. Catch-uppy. Today was going to suck. He just knew it. In his haste to finally begin his new lease on life, he had forgotten about one simple fact that made all his possible enjoyment of the day evaporate like a water jutsu when it was struck by an overpowered fire jutsu. He had school today. What's worse was this was a normal high school. He hated school on the best of days, but at least back when he was an 8-year-old brat they had been teaching him how to be a kick-ass ninja. All the crap they were trying to shove down the throats of the young here was just useless. What good was algebra and science going to do anyone who didn't plan on being a nerdy science geek? What good was history when he didn't give two twats about the past? When would the velocity vector v of an object that has positions x, t, at time t and x at time, can be computed as the derivative of position, ever be useful? Never. That's when. Naruto wasn't some nerdy science geek or some stupid smart physics professor in the making. He was a ninja, combat was his profession and kicking ass was his calling card. He didn't need to learn math, history and physics. Let the people who were going into professions that needed to use that crap learn it. He was just fine sticking to his fists. Granted, he didn't know how a ninja would live in this world, but he was sure he could figure something out if given time. Until that time came, however, he was stuck going to school. Talk about sucking it big time. Oh well, at least it was a decent school. The school he was going to was called Kuoh Academy. Naruto heard tell that at one point it had been an all-girls school, but had changed to co-ed sometime before he had arrived. The academy was actually a very beautiful campus. Naruto could admit that much at least. It was large, as in, really large. Try gigantic. It consisted of several buildings with the main one being a long, rectangular building that was 4 stories tall with a slanted roof, reddish-brown tiles and built like some kind of traditional European mansion. At least he thought it was a European mansion. His knowledge on the history of this world and its architecture was incredibly sketchy, meaning nearly non-existent. Still, it was a very nice-looking building and he supposed that's what mattered. All that being said, he still didn't want to be here. Just why he let that strange man talk him into coming here was so far beyond him at the moment it wasn't even worth thinking about. Ignoring the many people who were staring and pointing at him, being a troublemaker in his youth and someone who was used to being hated and glared at meant it was pretty easy for him to ignore the way people were whispering behind his back. It probably helped that a good deal of them had been doing this since he got here. Just what was their problem anyways? The new blonde student made his way towards his first class of the day. Kachapi. Naruto had never been so glad to hear a bell ring. No, scratch that. He had been just as glad to hear the bell ring yesterday that he did today. And the day before that and the day before that. Okay, so maybe it had been like this since he started school. He didn't think anyone would blame him for loving the sound of that bell. As far as he was concerned, it was a sound that represented freedom. Even if that freedom was only until lunch period ended. Still, it was a freedom that he would cherish until the next class, however short that freedom may be. And it allowed him to explore the school. Even though he had been here for a while, Naruto still had trouble finding his way around, so he always used the opportunity lunch represented to learn the lay of the land, so to speak. Walking around with a piping hot bowl of ramen in one hand and a set of chopsticks in the other, Naruto happily slurped away on his noodle dish as he enjoyed the sights and sounds of the school. At least he would have enjoyed the sights and sounds were it not for the fact that another sound caught his attention. It was a very familiar sound, one he had heard so many times before when he had been training with Ero Sennin that he could tell what it was as easily as he could tell you the color of his own hair. It was the sound of perverted giggling. Hayao Issei was a 17-year-old high school student of average height with short brown hair and light brown eyes. He wore the same standard academy uniform as everyone else who went to Kuoh Academy, though he also wore a red undershirt and blue sneakers. There was not much else that could be ascribed to him. He was, in all regards, a below-average student not worthy of notice except for one fact. His almost unnatural amount of lust. Hayao Issei was one of the largest, most perverse beings in existence. The kind of pervert that sent women running for the hills, or into a violent fit of female feminine fury. He, along with his 2 other friends, Mitsuda and Motohama, was known as one of the hentai Sanin Gumi. Or the perverted trio. On a side note, Jiraiya would be proud of these 3. This perversion Issei possessed would also explain his current activity. An activity he and his 2 friends were partaking in with great relish. Peeping on the kendo club as they got changed in the girls' locker room. Just looking at all that lovely, female flesh, the soft, milky skin, and the incredible range of breast sizes was enough to make him and the other 2 perverts nearly cream themselves. You look like you're having a good time. Issei's grin widened as he nodded along with the voice. Yeah. His friends nodded as well, neither realizing that the voice did not belong to any of them, busy as they were peeping. It's a nice view, isn't it? Issei's drooling showed just how much he agreed with those words. There may also be some nosebleeding in there, but it was hard to tell since his face is pretty much stuck to the wall. Yeah. I'm glad you 3 are enjoying this so much. It's good to enjoy something while it lasts. Issei blinked. Now that was a strange thing to say. Eek. Peepers. Perverts. Leches. How dare you peek into the girls' locker room? A voice shrieked from behind them. The perverted trio's eyes all widened as their danger senses kicked in like a 512 turbocharged engine going into overdrive. That was some serious horsepower there. They tried to turn around so they could run away from the scene of the crime. They might have been able to, except that at that moment a set of strong, steel wires rose up from the ground and wrapped around the trio, pulling them together and making them trip and fall to the ground. While what happened? One of Issei's friends, Mitsuda, shouted in surprise. Where did this wire come from? I don't know. Issei would have liked an answer to that as well. Too bad he wouldn't get one. So you're the three who thought they could peep on us. Fear coursed through his veins at the sound of the voice. He didn't want to look, but was unable to stop himself from craning his neck to look up into the eyes of the kendo club captain, who was unfortunately dressed in the academy uniform once more. Even more unfortunately, she had her shinai with her and was lightly tapping the bladed side against the palm of her free hand in a manner that sent shivers of terror down Issei's spine. Why am I not surprised it's you three? I would have thought you'd learn your lesson the last time this happened, but it seems you need to be taught using more forceful methods. More forceful. Motohama shrieked like a girl. Not that Issei couldn't understand why. Just thinking about what happened last time sent shivers down his spine. The last time you used your shinai to hit us in the family jewels. The kendo club captain grinned a devilish grin. I know. Girls, drop their pants. In most cases, this would have caused a good deal of men to lose themselves to lust. Such was not the case here. The perverted trio whimpered in fear as the girls closed in around them. As screams of pain emitted from the perverted trio, Naruto found himself laughing joyously as he watched the scene from the school rooftops. He had nothing against the perverted trio, or even perverts in general. Indeed, if he were to hate someone for being perverted, then that meant he would have hated Ero Sennin, and that man had been like a father to him. Or that really perverted uncle that you loved to death but would never introduce to your friends. He was still undecided. So, yes, Naruto did not hate perverts. Not at all. He just couldn't help but prank those three when they presented such a perfect opportunity. It was in his nature to prank people who left themselves so open. It would have been a crime against the pranking gods not to take such a golden opportunity when presented. Besides, they would be fine. Perverts were an incredibly resilient bunch. They could take the most brutal of beatings by a horde of angry females and get up seconds later like it had never happened. He only had to look at Jiraiya as an example. During their 3-year training trip, Naruto had lost count of the number of times his perverted sensei had been beaten to near death, only to recover a second later as if nothing had ever happened. From what Naruto understood, the only time that man had nearly died was when he got caught peeping on Tsunade. Kraaa. Not the face. Not the face. Yes, these three would recover soon enough. None of those girls were anywhere near Bar-chan's strength. They would be back on their feet before he knew it. Kyaa. Yes, the face. Yes, the face. Maybe. As the blonde's snickers turned into light chuckles, he felt as if someone was watching him. Being a ninja, former ninja, Naruto still retained a good deal of spatial awareness. He could tell when people were looking at him. And right now, he could feel someone's eyes on him. Turning towards the source of this feeling, he realized that someone was indeed watching him. Two someones, in fact. Both of them were females, wearing the standard Kuoh Academy uniform, a white long-sleeved, button-down shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, a black shoulder cape and matching button-down corset, and a magenta skirt with white accents. They were also, he noted immediately, incredibly beautiful. One of them was a gorgeous, buxom young woman with long raven-colored hair, violet eyes, pale skin and breeds that looked almost as large as Tsunade's. Her hair was tied into a long ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs, with two antennae sticking out from the top and sloping backwards while an orange ribbon kept it in place. As noted before, she was absolutely gorgeous. Naruto believed the term people used for someone like her was Yamato Nadeshiko, which, if he was remembering this correctly, was the term used to describe the ideal Japanese woman. However, while this girl was indeed beautiful, it was the other one who got his attention. She was a young girl who appeared to be in her late teens, the same age as him and the other girl, and had a figure that was just as generous as the other girls. Her creamy skin looked like it was softer than silk and her blue-green eyes were breathtakingly enchanting. Between her thin waist, wide hips, small shapely butt, Large breeds, silky-looking skin, enchanting eyes and a face that looked like it had been crafted by a pantheon of angels on a quest to find perfection, the girl was easily one of the most beautiful females Naruto had ever seen. It was none of these features that truly made her stand out to him, however. That honor belonged to her hair. Gorgeous long tresses of crimson red hair that spilled over her head and reached all the way down to her thighs with a single strand sticking out from the top. It was a much darker shade of red than his mother's, the color and darkness almost reminding him of blood, but still, Naruto could not help but think the girl had some of the most beautiful hair he had ever seen. You could almost say it was love at first sight. Naruto wondered if this was what his dad felt when he first met Mom. As the pair stood there on the ground, looking up at him from where they had stopped walking to wherever it was they had been heading to, the blonde cast the duo of beautiful females a bright grin and waved merrily at them. The Nadeshiko girl looked amused and waved back. Meanwhile, the crimson-haired female tilted her head, looking a tad curious for several moments before a soft smile played from her lips and she waved as well. Deciding to put on a bit of a show, the blonde allowed himself to fall off the roof. Before he could get far, his hands hooked themselves onto the water drain. With gravity pushing him down yet his hands keeping him up, Naruto's feet curved a parabolic arc that led him straight through the open window that he had previously used to get onto the roof in the first place. He let go of the drain, flipping through the air like a ball as he tucked his knees into his chest. After completing his flips, he stretched back out and his feet hit the ground. Had he been an Olympic gymnast using the high bars, he would have just earned himself a perfect 10. Grinning, the blonde began walking down the hall. The grin left him as soon as the bell rang. Heaving a sigh as his freedom was cut short once more, Naruto began making his way back to class with a slow, depressed gait. Akeno, Rias Gremory, the crimson-haired girl, said as she watched the strange, spiky-headed blonde disappear through the window in an impressive acrobatic display. For a human, do you know who that was? That's the new student, Uzumaki Naruto-kun, Akeno answered dutifully. He's in Class 2B, the same class as Kiba-kun. Not much is known about him. It's only been about a month since he started coming to school here, though a good deal of people seem to think he's some kind of delinquent because of his hair and skin color. Her lips curved into a teasing smile. Why do you ask? Has Boku-sama become interested in Kuoh Academy's newest student? Rias did not say anything to deny or confirm Akeno's taunt. She merely looked up at the still open window Naruto had flown through, its curtains fluttering in the breeze. Uzumaki Naruto. Kachapi. Hyaudu Issei could not believe his phenomenal change in luck. The day had seemed so bleak after he had been beaten to a near-death-like state by the girls in the kendo club. At the time, he could not help but feel like the world was out to get him just because he openly claimed to like breeds more than he should and had no issues freely ogling girls as they got changed. Why was it that every female ragged on him just because he showed a lot more perverseness than most guys? It was a well-known fact that all men were perverts. Why couldn't these girls see that he was just doing what every other boy wanted to do, but didn't have the guts to actually go through with? It was while he had been wallowing in his depression, wondering if he would ever get to see a pair of real live breeds that she came along. Yuma, a beautiful girl with long black hair that fell down to her waist and kind, violet eyes. She wore a short black dress that allowed a tantalizing glimpse of her amazing legs and a light purple jacket on top. She had come to him while he was moping on the bridge and had actually asked him out. Issei still could not believe he was dating this beautiful girl, or that she had been the one to ask him out. It was like God had finally taken pity on him and graced him with this sweet, innocent and beautiful girl. If only he knew that this girl's presence was not the designs of God. Then he would be singing a very different tune. The two of them had just finished their first date, which consequently was also the first date Issei had ever been on. It had been incredible. They had done all the things Issei imagined a couple would do on their first date, going to a clothing store where he had bought Yuma a cute scrunchy bracelet, then they had gone out to an ice cream parlor where he had gotten a soft drink and his girlfriend had ordered an ice cream sundae. Throughout the entire date, Issei had not been able to stop thinking about how lucky he was. Even his normally perverted thoughts had only cropped up on occasion, like when Yuma had leaned over and allowed him to see down her shirt. That had been hot. He had not even thought about how she would be an excellent first addition to his harem. He had not even thought about his harem at all. Issei could honestly say he was beginning to fall in love with this girl. Issei-kun. After the date, the two had made their way to a park. The sun was now going down and the vast array of colors cast halos around Yuma, making her even more beautiful than before. Several droplets of water from the fountain next to them sprinkled into the air around her, adding what almost looked like sparkles to her already dazzling presence. She looked like one of those beautiful girls you'd expect to see in a shoujo manga. Yes, Yuma-chan, Issei asked, his heart skipping a beat as she smiled at him. Ah, such a beautiful smile. There's something I was hoping you would do for me to commemorate our first date. Yuma looked so cute as she blushed demurely and pressed a finger to her lips. Will you grant me my wish? Issei felt like he had just died and gone of heaven. His heart was beating 1,000 miles a second. The painfully fast, thump, thump, of his blood-pumping organ was almost overpowering to his ears. Was this it? The moment of truth? Would he finally receive his first kiss? What it is. Could you please die for me? Comma. Issei scratched his cheek, his confusion more than evident. Maybe he hadn't heard right. Could you repeat that? I don't think I heard you right. Yuma's smile became increasingly sinister. As she tilted her head down, shadows seemed to cast harsh angles upon her once angelic face. Her eyes became hidden behind a veil of darkness. Only the sinister glow of her irises remained to be seen. Could you please die for me? Without warning, wings burst from Yuma's back, tearing the fabric of her dress and jacket, leaving 2 gaping holes in the back. The wings were very large, spanning nearly a meter each in length. They looked like angel wings, except that the feathers were black instead of white. With a flap of her wings, Yuma shot into the air and hung several feet above the flabbergasted Issei. I had a lot of fun with you these past couple of days, Yuma said as she held out her hand. Light seemed to gather and coalesce within it, creating what looked like a long spear. Dating a child like you was a nice break for me, and I'll always treasure this gift you gave me. She held out the small scrunchie he bought her. That is why I'm going to make this as painless as possible. She threw the spear at him. Issei, still in shock and trying to understand what was going on, could do nothing more than watch as the spear of light traveled towards him like a bullet. Abstractly, he knew that if that thing hit him, he would be dead. Yet for some reason, he could not find it in himself to move. Maybe he was just in shock that the girl he was falling in love with was trying to kill him. Then again, maybe his mind just had yet to catch up with everything that had happened thus far. Fortunately for him, while he was not able to react in time, there was someone else in the area who saw what was happening. This someone also happened to be the kind of person who could never look away when someone else needed help. Issei found himself shoved to the ground just before the spear of light could reach him. Instead of shooting through his flesh, it ended up embedded in the pavement several feet away where it soon dissipated. Yuma looked both shocked and angry. Who the hell are you? Issei blinked at her words, then looked towards the person who saved him. It was a boy with spiky blonde hair, blue eyes, and strange-looking birthmarks on his cheeks that looked a lot like whiskers. He was wearing a pair of black pants, a dark orange shirt and orange sneakers. Issei could have sworn he had seen this boy somewhere before, but was having trouble remembering where. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, the blonde boy introduced himself with a grin. And I'm sorry to say this, but even though this dude's a complete pervert, I can't let you kill him. Naruto wondered if it was karma that led him to where he was now, standing in front of some girl with black angel wings as she floated above him and the perverted kid he had just saved from getting skewered with some weird spear made of what looked like light. Seriously, there was just no other explanation for why this would be happening to him. Hadn't he left the world of powerful jutsu and epic battles behind? Apparently not. Oh well, life was getting boring anyways. You can't let me kill him. The girl's eyes narrowed in anger. I don't think you understand what's going on here, so I'm going to give you a chance to leave and pretend you never saw any of this happen. Now, step aside. Sorry, Naruto scratched the back of his neck while offering a sheepish grin. While I don't know what's going on, it's clear to me that you were going to kill this guy. He shrugged helplessly. I simply can't stand by and watch someone getting killed right in front of my eyes when I have the power to stop it. You want the pervert, you're going to have to go through me. Even if he no longer had the ability to use chakra, it didn't change who he was. Naruto had never been the type of person who could stand idly by while someone else was getting hurt and he could do something about it. Some people would call him reckless, but Naruto liked to think of his actions as noble. So you want to be a hero, huh? The strange evil angel girl said, grinning. Fine then. You can see what happens to people who try to play hero. Another light spear appeared in her hands. She tossed it, this time at Naruto. Too bad for her, Naruto was not Issei. He would not stand there looking stupid while letting her shoot a light spear through his stomach. Tucking into a forward roll, Naruto let the spear of light hit the ground he had been standing on. As he came up, the blonde reached into his back pocket where he kept a kunai on him at all times. It was a habit that let him remember his roots. Knowing that he couldn't just toss the kunai at the girl because he would be done if he lost his only weapon, Naruto also pulled out a spool of ninja wire, which he tied to the loop located at the hilt of the kunai. As he came up from his roll, the blonde deftly tossed the projectile at the girl with black wings. His aim was spot on. Not that it would do much good. Without chakra to enhance his muscles, he could not throw the kunai fast enough to make a difference. The girl dodged it rather easily. I don't know what you were hoping to accomplish with that, she taunted as the kunai flew past her. Something like that would never hit me. Naruto grinned. Who says I was trying to hit you? With his hands gripping the wire, Naruto yanked, pulling the kunai back down. Moving his hands in a set of complicated maneuvers, the blonde managed to force the wire to wrap around the girl's leg, using the kunai as a weight much like those grappling devices he would find from those superhero characters he had read about in the mangas of this world. Like Kamen Rider. What the? Down you go. His arm muscles bulging, Naruto used all the strength he had to yank the girl down. It wasn't as much as he would have liked. Despite how much Naruto trained, his body was only human, and without chakra, he could only do so much. Even Rock Lee, who couldn't use ninjutsu or genjutsu to save his life, at least had the ability to use chakra. His ability to open the 8 inner gates proved that chakra was the lifeblood of a shinobi. And without it, a shinobi would be as weak as a civilian. Still, strength of a civilian or not, Naruto was still a bit stronger than the average human. Thus, he had enough strength to bring this angel girl back down to his level. Yuma's eyes widened as she was sent spiraling towards the ground. Before she could even think of flapping her wings, her body smashed the pavement of the park hard enough to leave a dent. Groaning, the girl stood up on wobbly legs and looked up as the sound of feet hitting pavement reached her ears. She was just in time to see Naruto's fist meet her face. The sound of crashing thunder rang through the clearing as flesh smacked against flesh. Yuma was sent tumbling back from the surprisingly hard hit. It felt like her face had been smashed in by a freight train. Who knew humans could be packed such a punch? Naruto grinned as the girl hit the ground and landed on her back, hard, and looking absolutely stunned as a large bruise appeared on her cheek. It was good to know he still had it. The girl sat up and looked at Naruto with a glare, which just caused his grin to widen. There's plenty more where that came from if you don't leave the pervert alone. Said pervert's eye twitched as Naruto cracked his knuckles. Really? What was it with people calling him that? He had a name too. Yuma snorted. I'll admit, you're a lot stronger than most humans. She stood up and dusted off her dress, looking almost like nothing had happened save for the large bruise on her face. That punch actually hurt. However, this is over. She gave the now confused blonde a devious smile. You're already dead. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. Yuma didn't say anything, just smiled widely. Not that she needed to say anything, because at that moment Naruto felt it. Or rather, Naruto didn't feel it. In fact, he didn't feel much of anything from the waist down. It was like he had just suddenly gone numb. Looking down, Naruto found himself staring at the spear of light that was located in the center of his chest with shock. When had she been able to stab him? He was sure he would have noticed her doing something like this. As blood began welling up in his mouth and dribbling down the side, he looked back up at the girl with black angel wings. When did you? When you punched me, Yuma grinned. You were so focused on hitting me, you didn't even notice when I stabbed a light spear into you. I'll admit, I'm actually impressed you lasted this long with that in your chest. It didn't take much for Naruto to realize what had happened. Shinobi usually had great spatial awareness, meaning they could sense things happening around them to a certain degree and were even able to tell where certain objects were in relation to themselves when not looking at them. While the ability was great, it also had many limitations. The biggest one was hyper-focusing. When a ninja focused so much on completing their objective, their focus tended to zone out everything around them save for the objective itself. Many ninja had lost their lives this way, even those who were more experienced. Kakashi was perhaps the best example of this. Naruto remembered when his first sensei told him the story of how he got his Sharingan. During his first mission as a Junin, he had used his prized assassination jutsu, the Chidori, to try and defeat an enemy ninja. However, due to the speed requirements needed to use the jutsu to its full potential, it created a tunnel vision that blocked out everything except for what he was aiming for. This had been nearly fatal, and had it not been for Naruto's dad being Kakashi's Junin sensei, his teacher would have lost his life that day. And that was exactly what happened here. Naruto had allowed himself to get so focused on pummeling the girl's face in that it had created a sense of tunnel vision, completely blocking out everything except her face. Now he was paying the price for forgetting the lesson that story taught him. It seems a month in this new world with his chakra coils destroyed had made him soft. It didn't help that he could no longer sense negative emotions because he could no longer use chakra. Damn, this sucked. More blood began welling up in his throat. Naruto gurgled as he made to surge forward and continue fighting, but toppled face first to the ground instead. It was a miracle when he managed to at least roll over onto his back. The sound of footsteps approached him, and the blonde got a prime view of Yuma's panty-clad mound as she stepped over him and walked towards the stunned-looking Issei. Before she could get far from him, Naruto's left hand shot out and latched onto her leg. Yuma turned around in mild surprise. Oh, you're still alive, are you? I suppose that's fine. Just consider it punishment for getting in my way. She kicked his hand off her leg and continued marching towards Issei. As Naruto's vision began to dim, he tried to force his body to move, tried to make it do something, anything. It was all for naught. He couldn't even feel his body, much less make it obey his whims. Man, this sucked. Here he was, trying to help someone out, but all he ended up doing was getting himself killed. This was definitely karma. Just what did he do to earn such bad karma? Naruto's last thoughts were of his old friends. He wondered if they were happy. Were they working together towards building a better future now that Madara, Obito and the Juubi were gone? Had they finally found peace? Gods, he hoped so. It would suck even more to die and found out that his sacrifice had been in vain. At least if they had created a lasting peace, he could leave this world content. Catch RP. As Issei bled out from the wound as his stomach, his mind going black, a small slip of paper that he had put into his back pocket and forgotten about began to glow a deep crimson. The sheet of paper with the strange-looking circle flew out from Issei's back pocket. There was a flash of bright light before the sheet disappeared and the circle that looked like something from the occult glowed a deep, bloody red. The circle hovered in midair for but a moment, expanded until it was several meters in diameter, then began a slow descent towards the ground. As it slowly moved inexorably downward, a figure appeared from within it. Rias Gremory looked down at the boy who she had correctly assumed possessed a sacred gear, a powerful weapon given to humans by God. It was for this reason that she had not stopped what had transpired. Now that he was dying, she could properly resurrect him and make this boy her pawn. She did not like having to gain a powerful servant like this, but she couldn't see any other way Issei would have agreed to join her peerage. Actually, she could think of one way, but Rias wasn't willing to show her oppai to just anyone, regardless of whether she had little care for nudity taboos. A cough interrupted her inspection of the boy with the gaping hole in his stomach. Startled, she turned her head towards the source of the noise and was even more surprised when she saw who it had come from. Uzumaki Naruto. The boy who had piqued her curiosity on the roof when he had played a prank on Issei and his two friends. He was not supposed to be here. Walking over to the blonde-haired young man with hurried footsteps, Rias knelt down to check his injuries and found herself even more shocked when she discovered how injured he was. He was lying in a pool of blood and there was a large hole going straight through the center of his chest. Obviously the wound that caused all the blood in the first place. Even more shocking was that he was still alive. His fingers dug tightly into the ground, creating small indents in the pavement. His eyes were flickering from bright blues to a duller, more lifeless tone. It was clear he was struggling to remain alive but failing. With an injury like that, he would bleed out in seconds. She was just shocked he was still alive. He should have bleed out a long time ago. As she looked at the wound, Rias noticed something else that was odd. It was slow, incredibly slow. In fact, she was almost sure she was just imagining it, but it looked like his wound was closing. Of course, it couldn't be. This boy was a human. She could sense that much, and even if he had some kind of demonic healing, the light powers from fallen angels stopped all types of healing. Did that mean he too had a sacred gear? His eyes locked onto hers. Azure blue met greenish blue. There was a moment where his eyes seemed to flicker towards something behind her. What was he staring at? He smiled. It wasn't a very pretty sight, what with the blood dribbling out of his mouth and staining his teeth. Still, it was a surprisingly happy smile for someone who was on the verge of death. He coughed, causing more blood to spurt out of his throat. It was a miracle he could even speak. That wound had obviously caused blood to well up in his lungs. Such beautiful, red hair. Rias found herself feeling surprisingly flush. No one had ever complimented her hair before. And no one had complimented her with such admiration in their voice. That it came from someone who was on the deathbed was even more surprising. Absently, she reached out and held a strand of her crimson locks between two of her fingers and twirled it around. For a moment, she wondered what she should do. In some ways, this boy had died because of her. It wasn't right that he should die because of the machinations of devils and angels. Right. There was only one thing she could do. Snapping her fingers caused a brief flash of light to appear within her hand. When the light died down, it was to reveal an object in her hand. A chess piece to be exact. It was a standard piece, a rook. With this, Rias would be able to resurrect the boy as one of her servants. She placed it on Naruto's chest and stepped back. She recited the incantation needed to meld his form with the chess piece. She did everything perfectly. Nothing happened. Frowning, she tried another piece, her bishop. When that didn't work, she tried her knight. Again nothing. Frowning, Rias tried to figure out why none of her pieces worked. Did the boy require something special to revive? Maybe a single piece wasn't powerful enough. Consider this a gift from your dear brother. Eyes widened, Rias summoned another chess piece. It was different from the standard chess pieces. For one, it was red. For another, it was glowing. It also did not look like any chess piece Rias had ever seen. This was no pawn, knight, rook, bishop, queen, or even king. This chess piece was unusual. It was different. It was mutated. I believe you will find an interesting use for this. Don't worry, you will know when to use it. As she stared at the mutated piece, she remembered the words her brother had told her when he had given it to her. She had wondered back then why he would give her such a rare and valuable piece, but now she couldn't help but wonder. Had he foreseen this? Did he know something like this would happen? It seemed improbable, but knowing her brother, she did not discard it as impossible. 1 month, she murmured. Her brother had given this mutated piece to her exactly 1 month ago. The same exact time that Naruto had started going to her school on the scholarship fund for orphans that had been set up by that very same brother. He had even gone so far as to visit her at school just so he could make sure she got it. Coincidence? Probably not. Rias decided that she was going to be having words with her brother about this the next time she saw him. Well, I guess there is nothing else to it, Rias told the blonde as he fought to stay alive. I will not be letting you die today. So from now on, you will be living for me. She placed the chess piece on Naruto's chest. Its bright glow was the only way to distinguish it from the blood running freely from the overflowing wound. The boy, surprisingly still alive, cracked a single eye open as he felt the weight of the small chess piece settle on him. I command thee, Uzumaki Naruto, on my name Rias Gremory. As Rias held her hands over the chess piece, its bright red glow began to pick up even more luminescence than usual. Become my servant and walk these lands as a devil. Slowly, the bright, glowing chess piece began to sink into Naruto's body. Thou shalt lead a new life with great joy as a member of my peerage. As the mutated piece disappeared into Naruto, the glow went with it, leaving the world once more in darkness with only the moon and stars to cast light upon the world. Naruto gasped for breath, his unconscious mind telling him he was alive. Rias watched as the boy went from being half dead to alive and well, save for the wound still in his chest. That she would need to heal manually. Still, he would be fine for now, until she could make Issei her pawn and heal him too. As Rias went to resurrect Issei, she wondered what this new boy would bring. If her brother was somehow involved with him, she was sure that whatever Uzumaki Naruto brought to the table would keep things interesting. It was looking to be the start of a beautiful morning. The sky was clear of cloud cover, the sun was shining brightly, and a gentle breeze was blowing through the city, causing the trees to dance and sway. It was the kind of day where most people would feel blessed to be alive. Uzumaki Naruto was not one of those people. He had never really been a morning person. He was the kind of guy who liked to sleep in as late as possible and get up well after the sun had risen. It was a well-documented fact that unless there was an important mission, like, protecting a daimyo or rescuing a princess or defeating an evil demon who wants to create a golem army to conquer the world, Naruto would sleep like the dead. At least until someone woke him up. On a side note, considering who often woke him up back then, his wake-up calls were always extremely violent. Not to mention painful. Despite not having any inclination to do so, Naruto did wake up as the light hit his face. Groaning in discontent, he made to sit up in his bed. Blinking several times, he once more took a moment to curse the sun, as well as his blinds. Why they were even there when they did not block out that damned light was beyond him. As he absently looked around the room, a small frown formed on his face. He remembered what happened last night, that chick with the strange black wings and getting stabbed in the chest. As far as he knew, he should be dead by now. So how had he gotten back to his room? And just why wasn't he dead? His hand reached out to rub the center of his bare chest. The frown on his face grew even more prominent when he only found a smooth expanse of skin. If Naruto did not know any better, he would have never believed that he had gotten stabbed by that strange spear of light in the first place. It was almost as if he had dreamed the whole thing up. Except that the only thing he ever dreamed about was becoming Hokage and being chased by large bowls of ramen come to seek vengeance on him for eating their brethren. ... Don't ask. Regardless, that meant last night could not have been a dream. No ramen, no Hokage, not a dream. His brow furrowing even more as he tried to figure out what happened and why he was not dead yet, Naruto placed his hands on either side of him so he could lean back and use them as a pillar of support while he put his thinking cap on. It wasn't something he liked to do often, thinking that is, but when required to do so he could actually put that organ in his head to good use. He just preferred not to because it wasn't as fun. Flying by the seat of his pants was more his style. As his left hand hit the bed, he felt something warm and soft and round underneath his palm. It felt absolutely nothing like this bed. He froze. On reflex, his hand gave an experimental squeeze, which prompted a moan from whatever it was he had grabbed a hold of. His eyes drifted down towards his bed. Only it wasn't his bed that he was staring at. It was a girl. A very beautiful girl. A very beautiful, very familiar girl. She was also a very naked girl. He must still be dreaming. As he looked at the girl in his bed, he took note of several things. For one, the mound his hand was resting on was, in fact, the girl's right breast. Her creamy white skin created an interesting contrast to his sun-kissed tan, and the light pink of her nipple stood out even more starkly as the hardened new peeked out from in between his ring and middle finger. He also noted that he knew this girl. Well, recognized her at any rate. It was the same girl he had seen with the Nadeshiko one after playing his prank on those three perverts. After leaving for class, he had asked one of his classmates about her. He had been surprised by what he had found out. Apparently, this girl was quite popular. The lust of all men and the envy of all women. Rias Gremory. Not that he could blame them, he thought to himself as his eyes drank in the girl's beauty, taking note of her silky smooth skin, and incredible figure. Her gorgeous crimson locks fanned across the bed to create a startling contrast with the white sheets he had taken to using. By the way, those sheets. They had been discarded by the both of them some time ago. Meaning he could see all of Rias. And yes, that does mean all of Rias. His eyes stared at the area just above her flower. She was a natural redhead. Who knew? Reaching for his left arm with his right hand, Naruto pinched himself hard enough to draw blood. When nothing happened, the blonde's shoulders slumped a bit as he scratched his head in confusion. Okay, this wasn't a genjutsu of some kind and this wasn't a dream. So then, why was there a beautiful, naked girl in his bed? Knowing that the answers would have to wait until the girl in question woke up, Naruto decided that the least he could do was go and make them both some breakfast. He was sure the girl could use something to eat when she woke up, regardless of how she got here. And truth be told, he could do with some grub as well. Who knew getting stabbed through the chest could make one so hungry? Rias' nose twitched as the smell of eggs and toast wafted to her on a breeze. Opening her eyes blearily, she found herself staring at a plain white ceiling. It is unfamiliar to her. She blinked several times as her mind began the proper process of waking up. The process was slower than usual today. She had used so much energy last night healing Issei and then Naruto that she must have exhausted herself. Because of this, it took her a while to truly wake up, but when she was finally fully awake, the young Gremori was able to easily remember just where she was and why. She was in Naruto's apartment, having brought him here after resurrecting him and Issei. She must have passed out from exhaustion after healing him. And speaking of Naruto, Rias turned her head to look at the rest of the bed and blinked when she saw the boy she had rescued was not there. Her nose twitched again as she inhaled the scent of food being prepared. Was he the one making breakfast then? Sitting up, Rias did not even bother covering herself with the bed sheet to protect her modesty as she took a look around the room. It was a very bare room, Spartan almost. Rias had never been in a male's room before, but Shush imagined there would be more decorations to it. At the very least she expected posters of various bands and even half-naked women to be hanging on the walls. All this room contained was a bed, a nightstand, a dresser, a closet and a desk with a chair in front of it. Even then, only the desk had anything on it. While she was studying the very plain room, the door leading out of it opened up. She craned her neck to see the very person she had been thinking of walk in. His hair was wet and matted down a little bit, though surprisingly it was still pretty spiky. He must have just gotten out of the shower a few minutes ago. And he was only wearing his black skull pants and nothing else, allowing Rias an unfettered glimpse of his torso. It was one thing to feel his body while she lay with him, but it was another to actually see the physical proof of how physically fit the boy in front of her truly was. Due to the low lighting last night, she had not been able to really catch a glimpse of his powerful frame, but now, with the light from the sun filtering in through the window and brightening the room, she could see it much more clearly. There were many different body types that men could possess. Kiba, for example, had that skinny, somewhat effeminate frame most Bishan boys possess. Then there were the muscle-bound brutes who had the hulking, powerful figures and veiny bodies. There was also the people who could be anywhere in between, much like how women's figures could range from flat and tomboyish to full and feminine to even fat and flabby. Naruto's body was lean and highly athletic. He was thin, but it wasn't like Kiba's kind of thin. Unlike Kiba, who lacked any real muscle mass, the blonde's second year's body was packed with perfectly defined muscles. He had broad, defined shoulders. His pectorals, despite their smaller size than those meatheads who spent their entire life in a gym, looked like miniature bricks, hard and firm. And while he was still skinny, he had the powerful V-cut figure that many males have tried to achieve. He even had perfectly developed serratus anterior muscles on either side of his torso, which most have a hard time getting. They added a very aesthetically pleasing look when put in conjunction with his perfectly developed and defined six-pack abs. She wondered how a former human had managed to acquire such perfect definition. There were many among her kind who had muscles like that, but even people like her brother lacked the sheer tone found on this male's body. These were not muscles gained through hereditary genes or demonic powers. These muscles had been gained through years of hard work and experience. They were muscles that were meant to be used. Good morning. The blonde teen greeted her cheerfully as he walked over to the bed, carrying a tray in his hands. He did not even seem bothered by her lack of dress. Strange. Most boys would have lost themselves to their lusts by now. At the very least, they would have gotten a serious nosebleed. This boy just kept getting more and more interesting. Good morning, Rias graced Naruto with a smile of her own. It was an almost unconscious gesture in response to the blonde's own cheerful grin. It seemed his brightness was infectious. Naruto set the tray down next to her. It was only then that Rias realized the tray was holding what looked like a full-course breakfast. It had a plate of scrambled eggs, bacon, toast and a side of assorted fruits. There was even a glass of orange juice set off to the side. Sorry if this isn't what you normally eat. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly, the grin on his face widening so much that it forced his eyes to squint. Combined with the way his whisker marks stretched, Rias could not help but be reminded of a fox. I would have made you a more traditional Japanese breakfast, but I'm not very good at cooking so. Rias could not help but smile. This Naruto seemed like such a nice young man, and so helpful too. He would be a great addition to her peerage. It's fine, she told him gently as she grabbed the fork that had come with the food. Thank you very much for making this for me. You did not have to. Ah, well, you know, the blonde looked away from her. Or, he was blushing. How cute, it seemed her newest servant couldn't accept praise very well. I thought it was the least I could do since you saved me and all. He paused, then looked at her with his head tilted questioningly. With his innocent personality combined with those whisker marks, Rias could not help but think he looked adorable. Certainly not Koneko adorable, but cute in his own way. You did save me, right? Yes, I was the one who saved you, she confirmed before taking a bite of the food he had prepared for her. She blinked. This is very good, she complimented, causing him to beam. Thank you. Even though I can't make anything too complicated, I've always been good at making basic foods, he chuckled, a bit of self-depreciation mixed with good humor. When you've lived on your own for as long as I have, you learn a thing or two about cooking. I would imagine so. Rias looked at him inquisitively. She had heard he was an orphan, so his words made sense. Have you lived on your own for a long time? Over half my life, Naruto confirmed. I left the orphanage I was raised in when I turned 6 and never looked back. The old man Hokage managed to get me an apartment to live in while I went to school. Fire Shadow. Rias blinked at the strange term. What a strange and unusual title. What is a Hokage? Ah, a Hokage is like, Naruto scratched his chin as he tried to figure out an appropriate analogy for what a Hokage was compared to the types of figureheads in this world. I guess you could say it's like a mayor. He's the one who was in charge of the village I grew up in. I see. What an odd name for a village leader. And a village. Did that mean Naruto had been raised in some kind of small, backwater village that was stuck in the more traditional Japanese era like the Sengoku period or something? So you've been living on your own for a long time, it seems. Her curiosity was definitely piqued. What about your parents? My parents. Naruto blinked, then shrugged. Never knew, My parents died about an hour or so after I was born. Oh. Rias flinched a bit. How rude and inconsiderate it was of her to ask something like that. He was an orphan, so of course his parents were dead. I'm sorry. Nah, it's fine, Naruto waved off her apology with a laugh. While I never got to know my parents, I do know that they loved me very much. I'm here because they gave their lives for me. Really, his smile softened a bit, resembling a mix of nostalgia and the kind of content only people who have been said to have reached enlightenment had. That's all I need. Just knowing they loved me enough to give their lives so I could live is enough for me. That's a very mature way of looking at things, Rias said, smiling a bit herself. Though that was only on the outside. Inwardly, she was frowning. His words bothered her greatly. From the way he spoke, it sounded like his parents had sacrificed themselves protecting him from someone, or something. Could it be that his parents were involved in otherworldly matters that usually did not involve humans? Perhaps one of the more violent devils or fallen angels had attacked his home and his parents died protecting him. And what did that say about Naruto? If there was a devil or fallen angel that had attacked him, there must have been a reason. Rias couldn't fathom what that reason was, as this boy had no sacred gear or anything of the sort. And yes, after taking him home she had checked to see if that strange healing ability was because he had a sacred gear. Perhaps his parents had simply angered the wrong person. It didn't necessarily have to be a devil or fallen angel who killed them. Humans were perfectly capable of killing each other. Whatever the case was, she would probably never know what happened unless she asked Naruto, but now was not the time for that. Can I ask you something? Rias looked up to see Naruto staring at her with his brows furrowed inquisitively. She offered him a smile. What did you want to ask? Well, Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. This may sound rude, since you healed me and everything, but why were you sleeping next to me in my bed? And why are you naked? His eyes swept over her body and Rias finally saw the lightest traces of a blush on his cheeks. It wasn't big, but it was there. She smiled, pleased to know that his lack of reaction before wasn't because he didn't like what he saw. It would have been a blow to her ego if he had not found her pleasing to look at. Still, she wondered if his lack of serious reaction meant he had experience with things like this. It's fine, Rias smiled reassuringly. I understand why you would be curious. She paused. The reason I was in your bed was because I was healing your wounds. That stab wound in the chest was a fatal wound. I had to saturate your body with my magic in order to heal you. Magic. Naruto adopted a slightly stupid expression as he scratched his head. You mean like that stuff where people pulls rabbits out of their hat and whatnot? Rias covered her lips with her hand and giggled a bit. No, not like that. I mean real magic. You see, I'm a devil. A devil. Naruto's face scrunched up in thought. You mean, like, a demon, or something? In layman terms, Rias confirmed with a nod. Though we don't actually go by the term demon. Devils are beings born in the underworld, or hell, as you humans call it. I am a pure-blood devil from the Gremory clan, one of the 34 clans remaining of the 72 pillars. I see. Naruto adopted a thinking pose, which involved him placing his chin in his hand while the other held up his elbow. So you're from a really important family. He looked over at her. Are you some kind of royalty or something? In a way, she said, the 72 pillars are the 72 devil clans that are what we call pure-blood devils. Devils who were born devils and not reincarnated humans. Right now, there are only 34 remaining clans of the original 72 pillars. Though some of the clans are still alive, they no longer hold their status because they have human blood mixed with them. Huh. So it's not like an earned position but one gained because they don't mix their blood with humans. Exactly. What was that you said about reincarnating humans into devils? When a human dies, it's possible for a devil to reincarnate them as a member of their peerage. Here it was. The moment she told him about his new status, Rias mentally prepared herself for the denial the boy would show when she informed him of his new status. That is actually what I did with you. Comma dot. Naruto blinked. Come again. When I arrived, you were already mostly dead, Rias informed the blonde who was staring at her blankly. Your wounds could not be healed quickly enough to keep you alive. In order to let you continue living, I had to reincarnate you as a devil. So I'm a devil. Rias nodded in confirmation. Naruto began patting himself down, causing her to look at him oddly. What are you doing? I don't seem to be any different, he mumbled to himself, and I don't feel like going out and destroying a village or sacrificing virgins, children and puppies. A second or two later, he shrugged. Well, whatever. Might as well not sweat the small stuff, right? Rias sweet dropped. Devils aren't really like that, she informed him. It's actually against the laws of our kind for a devil to kill a human without just cause. Honestly, we're not that much different from humans. We just have powers humans do not have and we've been raised in a different society than humans. She paused, then added, and we're much longer lived than humans. Well, I suppose if you're the standard I can expect when meeting a devil, you guys certainly can't be bad. Naruto gave the girl a bright smile. You seem really nice. Nothing like what I've read from books and stuff. That's kind of you to say, and she meant it. While most devils might be insulted for someone calling them nice, she was not. I'm glad you don't seem to hold on to the stereotypes most humans have for devils. I just try not to judge people by what they are, but who they are. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. To me, it doesn't matter if you're a devil or a human. So long as you're a good person, then there's no reason your origins should matter. I've had too many people judge me based on things other than who I am as a person. I'm not going to do the same to someone else. Rias watched as his hand went down to rub his stomach. She took note of the odd action, but discarded it for now. Anyways, you should finish eating, Naruto informed her. We only have half an hour left before school starts. Rias blinked in surprise. She had been so caught up talking to Naruto that she had completely forgotten about the time. After you finish breakfast, you can take a shower. It's just down the hall on the right-hand side. It's the only door in the hallway so you can't miss it. You'll find the towels hanging on the rack to the right. Thank you. As she watched the blonde scratch the back of his neck in what she was beginning to recognize as a habitual reaction to any kind of compliment or praise, Rias could not help but think about how lucky she was to have gotten someone like Naruto on her peerage. He was quite thoughtful and kind, and he didn't even care that she was a devil, or that she had turned him into one. Yes, this Uzumaki Naruto would make an excellent addition to her peerage. Kachapi. How about a favorite movie? I don't really have one. How could you not have a favorite movie? Don't most people have one? Do you have one? Well, no. But I have more important things to do than watching movies. Like what? Like training. Naruto found himself walking backwards, hands behind his head and a sunny smile on his face as he escorted Rias to school. It was only right that he did so. Escorting her to school, that is. She had not only saved him, but had been at his house anyways. Plus, this gave him the opportunity to get to know the beautiful and intriguing redhead who had reincarnated him as a devil a little bit better. Training. Rias looked vaguely curious. Naruto nodded his head. Ever since I was younger, I've always trained myself in order to grow stronger. He grinned widely as he held out an arm and flexed his muscle while placing a hand over his bicep. And I like to think I'm pretty strong. You do seem to be very fit, Rias commented. Is that because of your training too? Pretty much, the blonde confirmed as they entered the school gates. All around them, students stopped what they were doing so they could stare at the strange duo. Everyone seemed shocked that the new student with the ridiculously bright blonde hair was in the company of the red-haired beauty, Rias Gremory. Not that Naruto cared. He pretty much blocked out everyone around them save the girl in front of him. Why do you train so much? Naruto blinked as he thought about her question. Then he shrugged his shoulders. Habit, mostly. I've been training for so long that it's pretty much a part of me. It just doesn't feel right for me to slack off on my training for any reason. Even if he had no purpose to get stronger for, he had been training to grow stronger for so long that it was pretty much ingrained into his very psyche. I see. Alright, so about this. What's your favorite color? My favorite color. Rias blinked, then smiled. Blue. Really? Really? Rias nodded. And what about you? What's your favorite color? Orange. Naruto announced proudly. And loudly. Orange is the color of the gods. Only someone as wise and gracious as the gods could have possibly come up with such a divine color. Rias giggled at him, causing Naruto to grin widely at the girl, uncaring that she was laughing at him. Though, I will admit, I really like red too. Do you? Rias calmed down from her giggles and took a strand of her hair between her ring and index finger, twirling it around. So you really like my hair then? Naruto nodded seriously. It reminds me of my mother. Rias perked up. Your mother? Naruto hummed. I never really got to meet my mom, but I do know a few things about her that other people told me. She was a major tomboy when she was younger, and because she had really bright red hair and a pudgy face, she earned the nickname Tomato when she was in school. Back then, I was told she had beaten up all the boys who made fun of her and they ended up giving her the nickname Akai Chishio no Habanero because of her red hair and fierce temper. Rias held a hand to her mouth and giggled. She really does sound like a tomboy. Naruto grinned proudly. Yep. Anyways, because of how much people made fun of her back then, Mom really hated her hair. However, all that changed thanks to my dad. A small, nostalgic smile appeared on Naruto's face as he remembered the story his mom had told him the one and only time they had ever met. Mom was a very prominent person where I lived. I suppose you could say she was sort of like you. Rias looked at him curiously. She was the heir to a very powerful clan called the Uzumaki clan. Clan of the Whirling Tides. I think they were called that because of where they originally lived, Naruto said. You see, before the Uzumaki clan was mostly wiped out save for a few scattered remnants, they lived on an island that had a natural defense of dozens of whirlpools. Because of that, it was very difficult for attacking forces to invade them. I see. Rias smiled at his helpful answer. Please continue with your story, Naruto-kun. Right. Well, Mom was the last surviving member of the Uzumaki clan and this made her a target for a rival village who wanted to hold her for ransom. They ended up infiltrating the village and kidnapping my mom. Rias found herself getting sucked into the story. What happened? When they were taking her away from the village, Mom managed to leave a trail made from strands of her hair. And the one who followed them and managed to rescue her was my dad. Your dad? Yes. Back when they were in school, Mom didn't actually like my dad. He chuckled a bit. She thought he looked flaky. Rias giggled as Naruto continued his story. But on that day, Mom's opinions about Dad changed. You see, he not only rescued her, but he told her that the reason he had been able to find her was because of her beautiful red hair. He was the only person to ever compliment her hair color. After that day, Mom fell in love with my dad and decided that she loved her hair too. She even went so far to call her hair the red thread of fate, because it brought her and Dad together. That sounds like such a romantic story. Even Rias was prone to dreamy sighs after a tale like that. It was like one of those classic fairy tales people read about in fantasy romance novels. Is that why you like my hair so much? Because it reminds you of your mom. Not really, Naruto shrugged. Your hair color is a lot different than mom's. They may both be red, but hers was a lot lighter, while yours is more of a crimson. He grinned as he placed his hands behind his head and looked up at the sky. I just think you have really beautiful hair. He looked back down at Rias, his grin widening. That's all. I see. Rias looked away, causing the blonde to tilt his head curiously. Had he said something wrong? He thought girls liked it when they were given compliments. He looked over to where Rias was looking and saw the perverted boy he had tried to save last night staring at them. Leaning in, and ignoring the loud noises coming from the people around him when he did this, Naruto whispered, "Did you reincarnate him too?" Giving one last look at Issei, Rias smiled and responded by whispering in Naruto's ear. I did. Gotcha. Naruto nodded and leaned back, I just wasn't sure. I don't really remember much of what happened after. He trailed off for a second, his hand going towards where the large hole in his chest had been. I understand. Rias stopped after they entered the school building and turned to face him. She grabbed the hand Naruto had placed against his chest and moved it away so she could place her own hand there. Startled gasps emerged from those around them. Naruto ignored them as easily as he ignored the glares he used to get in his former home. You really are a kind person, aren't you? She continued, causing Naruto to blush with a sheepish smile. You wouldn't think so from how he used to act when he was younger, but Naruto was never very good at accepting praise. Worrying about someone you don't even know. Even someone you seem to enjoy playing pranks on. That was his own fault, Naruto defended himself, he and his friends were just leaving themselves wide open like that. I couldn't not prank them, you know. Rias giggled, it seems I've gained a little prankster in my peerage. Peerage. Naruto blinked. Another time, Rias said, school is starting soon. She removed the hand from his chest and smiled as she backed away. I will send someone for you after class, okay, Naruto-kun? Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Naruto smiled as he waved Rias off. I'll see you later, Rias. Catch-uppy. Naruto yawned as he sat down in his seat. Class was about to start and he was already wanting to go to sleep. Man, Shikamaru was right when he said learning was troublesome. Closing his eyes, Naruto placed his hands behind his head and leaned back in his chair to rest. He could easily afford few more moments of shut eye. It wasn't like the teacher could say anything. Despite what many people might assume, he actually had pretty good grades. Sure, it wasn't a 4.0 average, but 3.1 was pretty damn good too. Back in Konoha, everyone had called him the dead last because he sucked at theory and reading assignments. That wasn't going to happen here. He wouldn't be thought of as an idiot in this world, even if it meant he had to, study. Cue shudder. Ohio, Naruto-san. Cracking an eye open, Naruto found a handsome young man with short blonde hair and gray eyes standing in front of him. He was wearing the standard school uniform and his blazer was fully buttoned. He sort of reminded Naruto of Sasuke in the way that all the girls seemed to think he was the hottest thing since the creation of fire jutsu. Kiba, Naruto gave the boy a bit of a lazy look. What's up? The only reason Naruto didn't have the same problems with him that he had with Sasuke in the beginning, aside from the small fact that he had outgrown those kinds of petty thoughts, was because Kiba was actually very friendly. He acted nothing like Sasuke did back when they were in the academy. In other words, he wasn't a complete jerk with a 50-foot pole shoved up his ass. Not much. Kiba sat down in a desk next to Naruto's. I heard that Boku has talked to you. Boku. Rias-sama, Kiba added when he saw Naruto's confused look. At the sound of the red-haired beauty's name, Naruto's face lit up in recognition. I was told she talked to you this morning. She did. The blonde eyed his somewhat friend with the sort of casual awareness one has when they're hearing something interesting enough to pay attention to, but not enough that they were totally into what was being said. I didn't know you knew her. Boku's the president of the occult club, which I'm a part of, Kiba informed him with a friendly smile. Ah. Naruto nodded his head, that would explain it. From the words Kiba spoke, Naruto easily deduced that the other blonde was also a devil, and this research club was likely some kind of front for Rias and other devils to gather or something. Naruto had to thank Kakashi Sensei and Ero Sennin for pounding some common sense into his head. He would have never been able to figure something like this out if they had not helped him. I was told that you were joining the club and that I should take you to the clubhouse after school so you can be informed of what we do. Sounds good. Naruto closed his eyes. Now be a pal and wake me when class starts. Haha. Kiba sweet dropped a bit. Sure thing. Catch RP. You. Naruto stopped and cast an annoyed glare as the pervert, Issei he remembered the kid was called, came running up to him with a crazed look in his eyes. It wasn't that the kid was talking to him that bothered him, so as much as it was the fact that he had things to do and places to be. Besides, Naruto already had a hunch about what the kid could want. The brown-haired, slightly insane-looking member of the hentai Sanin Gumi grabbed Naruto by the collar of his blazer. The unusual gleam in his eyes was not doing the pervert any favors right now. You remember Yuma-chan, right? Right, Yuma. Naruto slapped Issei's hands away and adopted a thinking pose. After a second, he snapped his fingers and looked at Issei. You're not talking about a chick with black hair, violet eyes and black angel wings, are you? Yes, yes. Issei was crying tears of joy at the knowledge that someone finally remembered the girl who had killed him. That's exactly who I'm talking about. Nope. Sorry. Never heard of her before. Issei looked at Naruto in shock as the blonde began walking away. Moving quickly, Issei ran to catch up with Naruto as the spiky-haired blonde caught up with Kiba, who had waited for him at the end of the hall after Issei grabbed him. What do you mean you don't remember? You were there. Naruto gave Issei a bright smile. I have no idea what you're talking about. Wah. But that's. Now, if you'll excuse me, Naruto interrupted, I have somewhere I need to be. Catch RP. Naruto could hardly contain his snickering as he left behind a dejected Issei. The last he had seen of the boy before disappearing outside of the school building, his shoulders had been slumped and there had been a look of depression on his face. In most cases, he would have actually felt bad about doing a prank like this, but the over-exaggerated expression on Issei's face just made it too funny for him to feel guilty about. Really, that boy was just far too easy to prank. It almost made him feel bad for pranking someone who was obviously so gullible. Almost. That wasn't very nice. Kiba did not sound very displeased despite his words. Naruto got the feeling his fellow blonde was amused. Naruto shrugged, snickering a bit. I couldn't help myself. The perv was just begging to be pranked. Is it because Issei-san is a pervert that you prank him? Asked a curious Kiba. Not really, Naruto shook his head. I mean, sure, it's always amusing to prank perverts because they tend to have stronger reactions than most, but it's mostly because he just leaves himself so open. If he wasn't as naive and easy to fool as he was, I wouldn't have nearly as much fun pranking him like that. I see, Kiba laughed. He led his fellow blonde outside, and Naruto noticed immediately that they were walking towards one of the other buildings located within the academy grounds. Is the occult club not in the main building? He asked curiously. We have our own building, Kiba told him, pointing towards the large school building they were heading to. Naruto immediately noticed that it was different than the main one, older, and had a slightly different style to its architecture. Despite its obvious age, it was still very well maintained. This used to be the main school building, but when the new one was built, Buku was able to acquisition it for the occult club. That makes sense. If they were devils, they would need a place away from prying eyes to do whatever it was devils did. And just what did devils do if they didn't sacrifice virgins, babies and puppies anyways? Hopefully, he would find out. Catch RP. Naruto stood back as Kiba knocked on one of the sliding doors in the old school building. After a few seconds, a voice inside beckoned him to come in and he opened the door. The inside of the room was clearly a cleared-out classroom. The floors were made of wood panels and there was a chalkboard hanging on the wall behind a desk. All of the student desks had been cleared out and in the center of the room was a chalk drawing of a large and overly complicated circle that Naruto could not make heads or tails from. He assumed it had something to do with this place being a club for the occult, whatever that was. All around the room were items to help increase this image. He saw tables with candles and skulls on them, the chalkboard had strange symbols and writing, and over in the corner there was a very cute girl with white hair, sitting on a couch and munching on Japanese sweets. Wait, what? Naruto looked over at the little girl again. She looked very young. He knew that if she was going to high school she had to at least be 15, but with her slim, petite figure, and cute, Lolita face, she looked a year or two younger. She had hazel-colored eyes and her hair was a pure white color with 2 long bangs at the front that ran down past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back was cut in a short bob-cut hairstyle. On either side of her hair were a pair of black, cat-shaped hair clips. She was also, Naruto noticed, incredibly cute, like some kind of cuddly mascot that he just wanted to pamper and pet. Maybe that was why she reminded him of a cat. Walking up to where the girl was sitting, Naruto sat down on the couch next to her and offered a bright smile. "Ohio. I'm Uzumaki Naruto." He offered his hand, which the girl didn't take and instead took her hands away and hid them on the other side. He noted she was clutching the plate with her Japanese sweets rather zealously. I'm not going to take your food, you know. I was just saying hi. Gomensai, the girl replied tonelessly. She relaxed her guard, at least a little. Naruto noticed she was still keeping the plate away from him. "Naruto-san," Kiba got the other blonde's attention. "This is Tuju Koneko, first-year academy student and member of the occult club. Koneko-chan, this is Uzumaki Naruto. A pleasure to meet you, Naruto-senpai," Koneko greeted, her voice still toneless. Naruto wondered about that, but shrugged it off. She was probably like Gaara that way. Kind and compassionate, but preferred not to show it. Naruto's bright grin returned. "It's nice to meet you too." He reached up towards her. Koneko flinched for a moment, clearly thinking he was going to take her sweets or something. That's what he thought she was thinking at any rate. A few seconds later, Koneko was completely relaxed and purring as Naruto began to gently run his hands through her hair. He gave a mild chuckle. He was right, this girl was a lot like a cat. "It's good to see you getting along with your peers, Naruto-kun." Turning his head, Naruto did not stop his gentle ministrations as he watched Rias walk in with the Nadeshiko beauty behind her. "Ara. So you're Uzumaki Naruto-kun," the Nadeshiko girl smiled pleasantly as she clasped her hands together in front of her waist. She had a very nice smile. "My name is Hamejima Akino. Please take care of me." Damn. What was the proper Japanese response for that? "Oh, right. Not at all. Please treat me well, Akino-senpai." Phew. Geez. These Japanese traditions were hard. And just why did they have such weird traditions anyways? The elemental nations never had to deal with all this etiquette crap. Or maybe it did. Naruto had never been one for etiquette back then, so he wouldn't know. Ara. Akino delicately held her hands to her face. "Such a cute little kohai I have. I think I might have to keep you." Was he supposed to respond to that? "Thanks. Now that everyone is here, we can get started," Rias began as she made to stand in front of the table Naruto and Koneko were sitting near. Kiba took a seat on the opposite couch while Akino went to make tea. "First off, welcome to the occult club, Naruto-kun." Good to be here," Naruto smiled politely. He looked over at everyone there before looking back at Rias. "Am I to take it that all of you are devils?" "Very good, Naruto-kun," Rias congratulated Naruto and graced him with a gentle smile. "Yes, all of us are devils." "I see," Naruto said as Akino placed a cup of tea in front of him. "Thank you." Ara, Akino smiled amusedly, such a polite young man. "You're welcome." Naruto stared at the raven-haired beauty for a second as she walked over to stand behind Rias, holding the tea tray to her bosom. He shook his head and picked up the cup of steaming liquid, lightly blowing on it before taking a drink. Normally, Naruto did not like tea, but it would be rude not to drink it. "This is good," he complimented honestly after taking a small sip. He took another one as Akino smiled at him. "Thank you." As he was about to take another sip, a hand tugged at his sleeve. Turning his head, he saw Koneko staring at him with an imploring look. At least it was imploring to Naruto. To anyone else, it would not look any different from her normally apathetic gaze. Naruto got his ability to read blank facial expressions from spending too much time with Gaara. Right, sorry about that. He set the teacup down and reached out with a hand to restart his gentle petting of the girl's hair. Koneko melted, much to the amusement of the others. "It seems he's already managed to earn the affection of at least one of us," Akino mused, then looked over at Rias. "Or is it two of us?" The president of the occult club frowned, but still responded. "I will admit it, he's a very interesting individual. He seems to gather people around him very easily, even those who have just met him, with his open and friendly personality. Including you. Maybe. You know, I'm still having a hard time believing all of you are devils, Naruto frowned. No offense, but all I can see are 3 very pretty girls and 1 blonde guy. Ah ha ha ha, Kiba laughed sheepishly at being referenced as one blonde guy. You're blonde too, you know. Yes, but I'm new here, Naruto shot back. I can see why you would be skeptical, even though I already explained this, Rias said. But there is an easy way to prove what we are to you. Naruto watched with a raised eyebrow as Rias, Akano and Kiba all sprouted black bat wings from their back. He looked over at Koneko, wondering if she would do the same. She didn't, but not because she couldn't. She was still experiencing bliss at his hand. You have wings too, you know. At that, Naruto turned his head slightly and saw that, yes, he did indeed have wings. 2 bat-like black wings were sprouting from his back. The blonde narrowed his eyes and focused on them, getting them to flap a bit before some more focus made them retract. Wow, that was interesting. Okay, Naruto admitted, turning his attention back to Rias, so you guys are devils. Question. Ask away, Rias gestured for him to continue. Why are you telling me this and not Issei as well? I would have figured you would want him to be here too. Since, you know, you reincarnated him as well. Rias nodded her head as if she expected that question. Very true, and I have every intention of telling Issei soon. However, Rias' countenance darkened. I believe that Issei is being targeted. Targeted. Naruto narrowed his eyes and a calculating glint appeared within his normally friendly and open irises. I see, you're using him as bait to find out who's targeting him. If he knew about all of this, he would be more wary, thus not reacting in a predictable manner. In other words, you need him to not know anything until you find out who is after him so that you can catch his assailants in the act. Exactly, Rias smiled brightly at the blonde. You really are quite smart. Naruto used his free hand to scratch the back of his head sheepishly. Not really. I'm just good at reading between the lines. You know, looking underneath and all that. Well, I for one am impressed with how easily you managed to figure out my plan on so little information. Naruto flushed at the praise as Rias continued complimenting him. It takes a keen mind to think up such conclusions so easily. I guess, Naruto mumbled. Coughing a bit, he tried to get back on track. So, who exactly is after Issei? Rias' countenance became incredibly serious, forcing Naruto to do the same, which really just made him look kind of ridiculous because by now Koneko had taken to laying her head on his lap as he stroked and petted her head. One of our greatest enemies, Rias said with the utmost seriousness. A group known as the Fallen Angels. Cachapi. Issei left his friend's house feeling even more depressed than before. It seemed not even watching his favorite pornos could lift his spirits up. He had been so sure that the blonde kid he saw with Rias senpai the other day would have known who Yuma was. He was there when it happened. Hell, he had even saved him. Well, he tried to save him. Issei still ended up taking a light spear to the gut, but it was the thought that counted. Right. But no, when Issei confronted Naruto the boy claimed to not know a thing. How depressing was that, to see the person who tried to save you not even remember what happened or remembered about the girl he tried saving you from. Maybe it was just him, but the thought made Issei extremely depressed. Did no one remember Yuma? As he continued to walk down the street to his house and sulk, a strange feeling came over him. It was sort of like that feeling he got when he was about to be beaten by a horde of angry teenage girls, only different. It was much more sinister and made his body shiver as a chill crept over him. How unfortunate. Issei blinked, then turned around. Walking into the light of a street lamp was a middle-aged looking gentleman with short black hair and dark blue eyes. He wore an outfit that consisted of a pale violet trenchcoat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, and a black fedora. To actually bump into someone like you in a place like this. The man traced his fingers along the rim of his fedora. Issei stared at the man dumbly. What the hell was this idiot talking about? Not wanting to stick around any longer, and feeling more than a little on edge around this guy, Issei did what he felt was the most prudent thing at the time. He turned around and bolted like a bat out of hell. Trying to run away. The man taunted. Tell me, who is your master? What the hell was this guy talking about? Master. He had no master. Issei didn't bother answering the obviously deranged man and simply focused on running. If he traveled far enough, fast enough, he should be able to lose the guy. Teenagers such as himself had more energy than old farts like that guy. Right. Did you really think I would let you run away? Issei's eyes widened as he stumbled forward, just barely catching his balance, then turned around. The man he had tried to lose stood in front of him, only he was different than the last time Issei had seen him. He had wings. Black angel wings. Just like Yuma. Tell me who your master is, the man demanded. When Issei didn't answer, namely because he didn't know what the hell this lunatic was talking about, the man frowned. Or perhaps you're a stray. I can't detect any traces of your master on you, so you must be a stray. In that case, killing you will not be a problem. The man held out his hand and a bright light started to emit from it, which Issei realized with a start he had seen happen before. He should remember that light. It was the same light Yuma had made right before she ended up killing him. As expected, a spear of light appeared in the man's hand. Issei turned to run, knowing he had to get out of here before he was killed. Perhaps if he ran far enough, he could lose this strange man with wings like Yuma. He didn't get very far. Before he could even run a meter from where he had been, an incredible pain erupted from his stomach. Issei looked down to see the cause, not surprised one bit to find he had the shaft of the light spear sticking out of his gut. Gah! This was the second time he had been stabbed by one of these light things in 2 days. What the hell? Coughing, Issei tried to pull the light spear out, only to feel more pain surge through him as his hands were literally burned by the light. You can't pull it out, can you? The man behind him taunted. He grabbed Issei by the head with one hand, grinning like a madman. Light spears like this are deadly poison for creatures like you. Would you like me to help you pull it out? Without warning, the man ripped the light spear out of Issei's stomach through his back. If the pain he felt from getting it shoved in him in the first place was incredible, then the pain of having the spear pulled out was indescribable. Nothing could have prepared him for the agony he felt now. I apologize for giving you such pain. Issei just barely heard as he held a hand to the gaping hole in his stomach. He just barely managed to crawl over to a wall where he felt his life fading again for the second time. Sadly, it looks like I missed your vital organs. I'll be more accurate next time. This time, I'll definitely kill you. Just before the middle-aged man could throw his light spear at Issei, a loud voice interrupted him. Dynamic entry. The last thing Issei saw was the strange man with the black wings getting smashed in the face by an orange and black blur. Naruto grinned as he landed on his feet after sending the fallen angel with the fedora flying. That felt good. Really good. If there was one thing Uzumaki Naruto enjoyed doing more than anything else, it was kicking jabroni ass. It was something he liked to think he excelled in. Standing up, the blonde held his left hand in front of his face and clenched it into a fist. It was small, barely a trickle compared to the vast ocean it had been, but he could feel it. Chakra. His chakra was returning. Even if the amount he could use was only on par with that of a relatively powerful genin, it was still enough to cause him fits of joy. It was also the reason he had managed to get here so quickly. Who the hell are you? Naruto looked up to see the fedora man glaring at him as he held the right side of his face. The young Uzumaki was pleased to see a very large, very ugly bruise had formed on the guy's face where he had hit him. Grinning like a loon, Naruto pointed at the man. I'm the guy who's gonna kick your ass if you don't leave the kid alone. And I am going to help him. Ah. Smiling, Naruto turned around to see Rias standing protectively over the no longer conscious Issei. Rias, I'm glad you were able to keep up. Your speed did surprise me, Rias admitted, causing him to rub the back of his head and grin widely at the redhead. But please, do not run off like that again. She gave him a sweet smile that made his insides feel all warm and tingly. I would hate it if you ended up getting hurt, Naruto-kun. He. Naruto felt himself feel a strange mixture of embarrassment and pleasure. Sorry, I just felt the strange energy this guy was giving off and had to see what was up. He looked over at guy in the fedora. For some reason, this strange energy he has makes me feel nervous. I'm not surprised you can feel it, Rias said, your senses are quite sharp. That feeling you get is because of what he is. Fallen angels are a natural enemy of devils. The unease you feel around this man is your instincts as a devil kicking in. Good to know. That red hair, the fedora-wearing fallen angel murmured. I see, you wouldn't happen to be part of the Gremori clan, would you? That's right, Rias said, smirking at the fallen angel. She absently used her hand to flip some of her hair behind her head in a display of haughty elegance that only a member of royalty like her could pull off. I am Rias Gremory. It's a pleasure to meet you, fallen angel-san. And I'm going to have to ask that you stop hurting Issei here. So that's one of your underlings. The man tried to look nonchalant as he fingered the rim of his hat. With the large bruise on his face now beginning to swell, it didn't really work out. Please don't leave your servant unattended like that. Someone like myself might bump into him while accidentally taking a walk and think he's a stray that needs to be put down. Thank you for the advice. Rias cast him an amused smirk before her expression turned serious. She narrowed her eyes and placed her hands on her hips. But perhaps you should be taking your own advice. This city is under my jurisdiction. If you interfere in my business or try to hurt one of my cute little slaves again, I may have to take more drastic actions. Whoa, Naruto murmured, his eyes squinting. This is like one of those old-fashioned standoffs. I've seen shit like this before. All we need now is a giant snake demanding sacrifices, a sake-drinking toad, and a very polite slug and we'll have a classic standoff. What? Rias shook her head at Naruto while the fedora-wearing fallen angel decided to pretend the boy had never spoken. It was safer for his sanity that way. With a large flap of his wings, he took off to the skies, leaving only a parting comment in his wake. The same goes for you, heiress to the Gremory family. My name is Donasek. Pray that we never meet again, especially you, brat. Oi! Naruto shouted to the sky. I am not a brat. You take that back, you flying sack of bird feathers. Don't bother shouting, Naruto-kun, Rias said calmly as she turned around to assess how badly Issei was damaged. He's already gone. Naruto grumbled insults under his breath. Rias could not hear all of it, but what she did catch showed the breadth and width of his vocabulary. It was most impressive. It was also very disturbing. Rias did not want to know what he planned on doing to that Donasek with several dozen gallons of tar, rubbing alcohol and a rubber duck. She really didn't. At least now we know the fallen angels really are after Issei, Naruto sighed. Yes, Rias nodded in agreement, which means we can plan accordingly. Do you need any help here? Asked Naruto, gesturing over to the unconscious boy with a hand. I'm not much of a healer, but I know the basics required to be a field medic. At the very least he could stitch the kid up. That will not be necessary, Rias said, giving him a smile. But thank you for the offer. Naruto couldn't help but smile back. Anytime. Catch RP. Naruto sighed as he collapsed onto his bed. Today had been a rather exhausting day. He found out that he and the pervert had been reincarnated as devils, and that he was now bound to Rias as a member of her peerage. That last part actually didn't seem so bad. As far as masters went, he could definitely do a lot worse. Then there was that whole incident with Issei getting stabbed through the stomach by a fallen angel. Again, that kid seemed to be an even bigger magnet for trouble than he was. Naruto used to think his luck was shitty when it came to danger. His first C-rank mission had turned into an A rank and the rest of his career was filled with fighting S-class criminals and giant demons, but seriously, getting stabbed twice within a 2-night time span was just screwed up. That kid must have the worst karma ever. Thinking about Issei and his stab wound made Naruto remember that Rias had said she was going to take the pervert home and heal him. That made him remember how she had healed him the other night. Wait, he said out loud to the empty room. Does that mean Rias is going to heal Issei the same way she did me? Gods, he hoped not. That would just not be cool. He didn't like the fact that Rias was going to be using her nude, vivacious body to heal that pervert. Who knows what he might do to her when he woke up. Not everyone had as much self-restraint as he did, and that Issei kid was a lot like Jiraiya in how open he was about his perverseness. If I found out he did anything to Rias, I'll kill him. It wasn't jealousy he was feeling, Naruto assured himself. They had just met, so he didn't have any feelings for her. He just didn't want anything to happen to the girl who had saved his life. Nothing more. He could keep thinking that. Whatever helped him sleep at night. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.